In this video, I'm going to show you a couple of really cool tips to help you set up your G Suite so that you can streamline your negotiation responses. So the first tip is to enable something called undo send. If you just click on this little cog at the top right and go down to settings, and right here we have something called undo send. Now, depending on your G Suite setup, if you're using Gmail, this may not be enabled by default. But basically, if you have an option here that says to enable it, you can click it and then you can select the send cancellation period. I like to select 10 seconds. Essentially what that does is when you press send on a new email, so we compose a new email and press send here, obviously after we've filled in all the details, then it's actually going to wait 10 seconds before it really does send the email. Now in day-to-day operation, that's going to make no difference to what you're doing, but there will be an undo send option, which if you click it will actually stop the email from being sent, which is really useful if you just want to double check something or you feel like you forgot to include their name or something in there. It's saved me a bunch of times, and I have it on all my email accounts, not just for outreach responses, that kind of stuff, but just my regular email is super useful to have on there. Just one thing, when you're making any changes here, make sure that you click the Save Changes button at the bottom to actually enable them. Now, the next thing we're going to do is enable something called canned responses. Now, if you're using the newer G Suite, then you actually need to switch back to the classic at the moment to access this. There's a feature called Labs, which you won't be able to see here. Normally, you just go into settings and there'd be a tab there for Labs, but in this new version, it's not there. So if you click on the cog again and go back to your classic mail, it should reload it. And then this time you can see the labs here is available at the top. This is what I was talking earlier about, by the way, with the enable undo send. In classic, that's not always checked. Anyway, for canned responses, let's go to labs. And we can see here, it's the second one, canned response templates. Just click enable and then save changes. So the general idea here is we're going to be able to load up any template that we want. This is going to be a template for a response, not an initial outreach, remember, into G Suite here, and it's going to enable us to just quickly pull them. Saves a lot of time copying and pasting from text documents. And as I said, it's a really good way to streamline your negotiation process for that initial response. Remember, you can't template everything, but if you watch the previous video in this lesson, you'll see that there's quite a lot of kind of commonalities in some of the responses. So I would recommend using those templates as much as possible. So here I'm just copy pasting the one which is a response to a link exchange. So here I'll be saying that I don't do link exchanges, I've had issues in the past, and then pitching them a guest post instead. A couple of things to note with template responses, with canned responses, is that you should not put merge fields in. So if I wrote, name here, it's not going to automatically pick anything up. You have to type it. You can edit it yourself, obviously, but it's quite likely that you're going to forget to do that if you put in some like spaces like this for it. So I like to just leave it so it's okay to send as is, but I will still go in and customize it, like, say, hey, Mark, or whatever their name would be. So this is just a simple compose email, draft email, and all you do is click this more options, canned responses, and go new canned response. And I'm just going to call it reciprocal link guest post. So I know exactly what it means. Hit OK. Then let's just delete that. And let's just open some random email. This is like a one we got from Google. And if we just hit reply here, then let's just pretend for a second that this was a response where someone was asking for a reciprocal link. All we do is hit this down arrow, canned response, and go reciprocal link guest post, and it would insert the entire email there. Remember, we'd still want to customize to include their name here. And that's basically it. That's canned responses. Fairly simple to do, but definitely worth setting up.